You know, sometimes you hear that writing languages like Arabic languages, for example, or Chinese or Japanese kind of languages is a form of art in itself. Like calligraphy is an art in itself. And, it's like, fair enough, it is. And you don't really hear this about French language, right? Like you don't really hear that writing French letters is a form of art, and no one really cares much about French calligraphy. It's not much of a thing, basically. But what you hear very, very often is that, and I hear this from students all the time, is that for some reason French language sounds nice and romantic. Like, oh yeah, I want to learn French because it sounds so nice and it sounds romantic and it sounds so good and everything. And, fair enough, it does sound good. Like it's obviously the strong point of French language is the way it sounds. And the reason it's like this, it's because in French, we somehow, throughout history, we decided that pronunciation was going to be the number one thing of the language. Like the fact that the language has to sound good is the most important thing. And this is what we're going to see today in this fourth lesson of pronunciation. We're going to talk about la liaison and the principle of la liaison. So I will not review the rules of liaison, and I will explain to you later why. Rather, I will present you with like the principle of the liaison, why we do la liaison and how does it work, okay? Because I feel like if you understand this, if you understand the logic of why we do it, then the rest will follow naturally. And this is the most important, okay? Let's go. Pretty excited about today because la liaison is the reason why French language sounds good, in my opinion. I mean, there are other reasons as well, obviously, but this is one of the main reasons. And for today, there will not be many exercises. We will do a speaking exercise at the end of the video. But what I want you to do is really rather to focus on what I will demonstrate to you. So put the video in full screen and, you don't have to take notes or anything, just follow along and listen to, like, try to understand what I'm showing, as I will do my best to try to explain it in a way as easy as possible. So first, let's look at some examples. Here we have the word de. So if I take this word independently, this is de, which means two, the number two. De. There's a X at the end, but it's only the spelling, okay? We don't pronounce the X, we don't hear it. And here I have the word euro, which is some euros, the money, okay? Euro. Donc, 2 euros. Now, when I put those two words together because I want to make the thing 2 euros, I have 2 euros. 2 euros. So, I think you see me coming here. Do you hear what's strange here? The strange thing is that this is de, this is euro. So by right, this should be read 2 euros. But I'm not saying 2 euros. I'm saying 2 euros. And I am sure that you can hear that for some reason, 2 euros sounds better than 2 euros. And this is the tricky thing. Why does it sound better? It's like, I don't know actually, but it does sound better. And what does better mean? I don't know as well, but even though I'm not able to fully articulate it, I'm able to feel in a way that 2 euros sounds better than 2 euros. So what are we doing here? Yeah, so this is how it sounds, 2 euros, okay? Okay, I will go back to this later. Here is another example before looking at the logic behind it. The word here is mon, which is my, for masculine things. For example, ça c'est un cahier, this is a cahier, a notebook. Mon cahier, my notebook, okay? And this one is ami which means a friend, okay? So by right, this should be read mon ami, but when I read it, actually, I will read mon ami. And I'm sure that you are able to hear that same, for some reason, mon ami sounds better than mon ami. Why? So let's look at this. Going back to the... Okay, I will talk about this later. Going back to the first example. So I said that this one is de. When you look at the sound de, you have the consonant d, and then the vowel sound e. So I'm not talking about the letters here, like D is a consonant, E et U, these are vowels, and X is a consonant, but I'm just talking about the sounds. Like when I say de, the sound de is composed of two sounds. The sound d, okay, which is a consonant, so I can write it like this, like C like consonant, and the sound E, which is like a vowel sound, you know. The vowel sounds are like E, A, I, O, U, etc. And the consonant sound are all the ones like P, K, S, Sh, F, S, Z, etc., etc. We talked about this in lesson 1. So once again, I'm not talking about the letters here. I'm talking about the sounds. So this is the sound of a consonant, and this is the sound of a vowel. So when we say de, we have d, e. And so we have one consonant and one vowel. If I look at euro, can you do the same division of sounds with euro? Well, I have e, r, o. So it's like I have a vowel sound, e, then a consonant sound, r, and then a vowel sound, o. And to alternate like this, one consonant sound, then one vowel sound, then one consonant sound, then one vowel sound, this is basically the basis of French pronunciation. This is what we try to have as much as possible. We want to alternate a consonant sound and a vowel sound, and a consonant sound and a vowel sound, okay? Now, what's the issue here? The issue is that if I say 2 euros, like this, I'm just putting 2 and euro and merging them together to make 2 euros, then you see that suddenly, what do I have? I have two vowels together. I have the E of de and the E of euro. Are you following me? So I have this right here and this right here. When I say 2 euros, they find themselves next to each other, okay? And so suddenly, I don't have a switch of consonne, voyelle anymore, because now I have two vowels next to each other. And this is what I want to avoid as much as possible. It is not possible to avoid it 100% of the time, but it is possible to avoid it 90% of the time, okay? And this is what we are trying to do with la liaison. So the idea here, basically, is that, okay, I have those two vowel sounds next to each other, and I want to avoid this. So I want to add a consonant in between. Then, if I have a consonant in between, I will be keeping the consonne voyelle, which is the thing I want to have as much as possible. Okay? So the logic here is, okay, is there a letter that I can use to create this sound? And actually, yes, look at this here. I have a consonant actually here that's not used for anything. It's part of the spelling of de, but I don't hear it. So why not take it and use it? Then it's something like, I'm taking this X here, okay, this X letter, and I'm saying, okay, you know what? Let's use it to make a consonant sound. Bam, suddenly I'm using it to make a consonant sound, and now, magically, it sounds like 2 euros. 2 euros, because we decided, I don't go in detail about this, but we decided that when making la liaison with the X, it will sound like Z, okay, because it's easier like this, it's more easy, okay? So suddenly, it sounds like 2 euros. 2 euros. It's like 3 syllables as if there was a syllable like this. The. 2 consonne voyelle. The consonne voyelle. Ro consonne voyelle. And this is how you speak in French. 2 euros. 2 euros. Okay? This is, you don't realize this, but now it looks mathematic because we are taking the letters apart and we're looking at what word only. But you will see this with the example I will show you at the end. When you push this logic to a whole text or a whole speech, this is why you think that French language sounds good, basically. It comes from this. Let's take another example. So here we have mon and here we have ami. So with the word mon and ami, I want you to do the same as we did here. So you divide the sounds between consonant sounds and vowel sounds. Can you try to do this at home with mon and ami? So you can pause the video here and think about it. C'est bon? So if we do the same way of thinking, this is what we have. Mon is m, which is a consonant, and the vowel on. So I have mon. Ami is a, voyelle, consonne, I, voyelle. Okay? So consonne, voyelle, perfect. Voyelle, consonne, voyelle, perfect. As long as I'm alternating one vowel sound and one consonant sound, everything's perfect. Now the issue is that, once again, if I put those two words together, boom, I have mon ami, and suddenly I have two vowels next to each other. Okay? Mon ami, suddenly two vowel sounds next to each other, which is what I want to avoid. So, same logic here. You see that I have consonne, voyelle, voyelle, consonne, voyelle. Okay. If I want to keep the alternating, I need to have a consonant here. So then I will have C, V, C, V, C, V, and it will sound good. I know that if I can create this, it will sound good. It will sound French, basically. Okay? So, is there a letter I can use? Yeah, I have an N actually here. The thing is that O and N together, O, N, creates the sound on. If you don't really understand this, please go watch the previous chapter, because we talked about this sound here, the sound on, like this, okay? But the letter N is not used as a consonant here, so why not use it as a consonant, like N, okay? So it's like, pop, I will take the N here, so you can think about it either way. Like, I like to keep a N here, because O and N together really makes the sound on, okay? But still, I am using this N here to create the sound N, to create a consonant sound. And suddenly, boom! CV, 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 and I have mon ami. I have linked the two words together. Mon ami. So when we talk about liaison, this is like this. Like we are linking mon ami, mon ami. Okay? That's the logic. That's the logic of it. And I had put an example earlier in the video. It's important because this is just a fun example. So if you have learned the beginning of French, definitely one of the two first verbs that you've learned are être et avoir. And so you have noticed that être, this is ils sont, they are, and this is ils ont, they have. And here I am doing la liaison. Ils ont, and here ils sont. So the liaison is important because here, if I'm not doing la liaison, I will have issues between être et avoir. Okay, so just a fun example. And so why was I telling you at the beginning of the video that we decided that this would be the most important pronunciation? So let me show you a very, very fun example. And actually, I was talking about this with a student the other day, like this week. So I told you that in mon ami, mon is this. So same, if you have learned French, like a beginning of French A1, you should know about this. So these are the words that we use in French to say that you own something, that something is yours. It's like my, your, his or her, our, your, their, etc., etc. So in French, this word depends on the gender of the thing that you have. For example, cahier is masculin. It's a like masculine word. So I will say mon cahier. But montre is a female word. So I will say ma montre. Okay? Just keep this in mind. Mon for the male stuff, ma for the female stuff. Okay? So when I say mon ami, what it implied is that my friend is a man. Because I'm saying mon. Okay? And when I say mon, it means that the thing is masculine. For example, I say mon père, my father, because my father is a man. But I say ma mère, because mère is mother and my mother is a woman, right? Donc, mon père, ma mère. So now, if my friend is a girl, and you can see it's a girl because I write it with the E at the end, what should I say? I should say ma amie, right? Because she's a girl. The issue here, look at this, is that I have the issue ma amie, I have m, a, m, I. So I have two vowels together, exactly like we had here. But here in the example of mon ami, I have used the letter N to make a consonant sound. But here, I don't have a consonant anymore. So what will I do here? Seems like I cannot do anything and I will have to say ma ami. But what did we decide in French? And this is so fun when you think about it. And this is really what I meant by this. We said, okay, you know, we cannot choose a consonant, but still, to sound good is the most important. So we should, like, we are ready to bend the rules of grammar and to just like change the rules of grammar just because we want it to sound good. So instead of ma amie, even if my friend is a girl, I will say mon ami. And that's the official rule in French. The official rule in French is that, and you know this if you've learned French A1, is that when you own, when something is yours and it's a female word, you use ma, except if the word starts with a vowel, in which case you will say mon. Just so you can do la liaison. And just because you want to avoid saying ma ami. And so you will use mon, so you can keep saying mon ami. Okay? And there are so many examples like this. I have put some here. So this is, technically speaking, in terms of phonetics, this is la liaison. This and this are examples of similar logic. Okay? But these are not la liaison, but it's not important. What I want to show you is that these are examples of sentences where we change we create the rules of grammar for the sake of pronunciation, because pronunciation is everything. And the easiest one is when you say je m'appelle. It's like somehow we decided, okay, for these kind of verbs like s'appeler, which is un verbe pronominal, if you learned this before, by right I should say je me appelle. But we said, okay, if the verb starts with a vowel, then we put M apostrophe. Then it will sound like je m'appelle, and I let you convince yourself that we keep the C, V, C, V, C, V, C, V. Okay? Same here, I don't go in detail, but it's just to show you that we have many cases in French where we basically decided that we were going to create and to change the rules of grammar and vocabulary and spelling just for the sake of pronunciation, because we want pronunciation to be good and to sound good as much as possible all the time. Okay? And once you have understand this logic, when you have understand this, why we do la liaison, then to me, 99% of the job is done. Because from now on, I don't want to show you rules of liaison. I don't want to explain all of them to you here. Maybe I will do in another video in the future, but right now I don't think it's interesting because basically you will not learn liaison by studying it like grammar, for example. This is not how you are going to become comfortable with liaison. And we have a list of rules for liaison, obviously. But these rules, in my opinion, they are interesting for French people studying like the science of phonetics. But studying them is not so productive and not so interesting for a foreign person trying to speak naturally. If you want to speak naturally, honestly, the best you can do, and I was describing this in the first chapter of this series of video, is just to practice. So please find some French people to practice speaking with and ask them to correct you whenever you are making mistakes. And just do as much liaison as possible. Just try to do it all the time, and you ask the people you're talking to correct you if some of the liaison is not good. And like this you will get a feeling out of it, because the way for it to become natural for you is just to practice, to listen to French and to practice, And I see this with my students all the time, when the students with whom I do online coaching. By the way, you can go check out my website if you are interested in doing speaking and coaching together. What I see with them is that sometimes they don't read something properly, they don't say something properly, they forgot to do la liaison. And just by telling them, don't you hear that it sounds a bit strange what you just said? Automatically they can correct themselves, because la liaison, the more you practice speaking, the more it becomes natural, and it becomes a natural part of your speaking. Okay? I will still give you a rule though, because it's part of the logic of liaison, and so I want to show you this one because I feel like it's useful for you to know this one. So in French there are 3 kinds of liaison. We call them the obligatoire, facultative, and interdite. Obligatoire means you have to do it. You have no choice. It's mandatory to do it. Okay? Obligatoire means mandatory. Par exemple, 1 euro ou 2 euros, mon ami, les arbres, etc. The most famous examples of liaison that are mandatory, that you have to do, are the ones with all the articles like this, all the small articles, pronouns, adjectives like this before the words, like 1 euro, mon ami, les arbres. Okay? All of these are absolutely mandatory. Then you have the forbidden one, the one that you cannot do. The most famous examples are the one with the word et. Okay? You never, ever, ever do the liaison after et. For example, here you will say Louis et Antoine. You will not say Louis et Antoine. It's absolutely forbidden. With et, you never, ever do the liaison. And then you have a strange case, which is kind of amazing, I think. I mean, when you think about it, it's so fun to have this. Which are the facultative one? It's the one you can do them if you want, but it's not mandatory. For example, je suis allé. I mean, the most famous example, I think, is when using the composed tenses of conjugation. For example, le passé composé. Then in between l'auxiliaire être ou avoir and the participe passé, this one is a liaison facultative. You can do it or you cannot do it. It's as you decide. So here, I can say je suis allé, or I can say je suis allé. I can say both. Both are okay. And funny information about this. Sorry, I'm speaking a lot. My throat is painful. Funny information about la liaison facultative is that you have okay, sorry for the slide, I'm trying to put some pictures and stuff, but it's not my strong point, obviously. You can do, I mean, you have in France, some social studies showing that basically the liaisons that are not mandatory, the more you do them, the more you do, the more it seems to indicate that you have a high level of education, basically. That's what the studies show. And so you can do almost like a linear law. In between, it's something like this, okay? So this is like how educated you are, and this is how many liaisons facultative you decide to do, and there's like a linear rule in between. So like, in a way, saying je suis allé with the liaison, it sounds more chic, more fancy, more sophisticated than je suis allé. You know? Yeah. Just to show you, I think it's a fun fact about the language. What's so interesting about this is that les liaisons facultatives, and I think this is one of the strong points of French language, it's also a point that makes it confusing sometimes for foreign people, but also very interesting, is that once you have a really good level in French, the liaison facultative is a field with which you can play to indicate a kind of speaking, a way of speaking, to show some ideas in a very subtle way by doing liaison or not, and it's really interesting. And so we are reaching, the end of the video. So I have put here the lyrics of a famous song, which is a poem and a song at the same time, French song, which became a jazz standard, like a big, very, very famous jazz tune over time. So the English title is Autumn Leaves, maybe you know it under this name, but originally, it's a French poem. The most famous version that I encourage you to go listen to is by Yves Montand, which is a very famous French actor and singer, mostly famous for singing, and mostly famous for singing Les Feuilles Mortes. Okay? So you can go check out this video on YouTube or any other video about this if you wish. And here I have put the lyrics for you to practice liaison. So I have put underscore whenever there's a liaison. So you see this, all of these are liaison, okay? So I don't have the charisma of Yves Montand, okay? Maybe, give me 15 or 20 years and I might reach his point, I hope, one day. For now, I might not have his charisma, but, I will still read it and I would like you to repeat after me, basically, and use this as a speaking exercise. This will be this only exercise of today, and we will finish with this, okay? So let's practice reading it and focusing particularly on liaison. C'est parti. So after each sentence, you can pause the video and repeat after me. Pay extra attention to la liaison. Oh, je voudrais tant que tu te souviennes des jours heureux où nous étions amis. Des jours heureux où nous étions amis. En ce temps-là, la vie était plus belle et le soleil plus brûlant qu'aujourd'hui. Les feuilles mortes se ramassent à la pelle. Les feuilles mortes se ramassent à la pelle. Tu vois, je n'ai pas oublié. Tu vois, je n'ai pas oublié. Les feuilles mortes se ramassent à la pelle. Les souvenirs et les regrets aussi. Les souvenirs et les regrets aussi. Keep going. So here normally he starts singing, so I will not sing for your own health, I think. I don't know how to say it. I'm trying to imply that I'm terrible at singing. So for your own survival, I will not sing. I will just keep reading it normally. Et le vent du nord les emporte dans la nuit froide de l'oubli. Tu vois, je n'ai pas oublié. la chanson que tu me chantais. C'est une chanson qui nous ressemble. Toi, tu m'aimais et je t'aimais. Nous vivions tous les deux ensemble. Nous vivions tous les deux ensemble. Toi qui m'aimais, moi qui t'aimais. Mais la vie sépare ceux qui s'aiment, tout doucement, sans faire de bruit. Et la mer efface sur le sable les pas des amants désunis. Les pas des amants désunis. Alright, if you want to wash your ears after this, you can go. I suggest that you go listen to the song by Yves Montand. Honestly, what I would really suggest if you want to do the whole thing, like you go to like on YouTube, maybe don't open this version. Like look for one with the lyrics at the same time and try to pay attention to the liaison now that we have read the whole thing together. Okay? It's a pretty short song, but it's a really, really beautiful love song and a good example of French pronunciation with liaison. That's it. That's it for today. I hope this was interesting for you. It's a bit of a different video than usual because we didn't do much practice, but I really wanted to show you the liaison in this way because I wanted to convey this idea that we're trying to put pronunciation at the top of the pinnacle of French language rather than anything else. And I think it's pretty fun that we're okay to bend in a way the rules of grammar for the sake of pronunciation. Okay? That's it for today. Good luck with everything. Please try to find some people around you with whom you can practice speaking because you can watch my videos as much as you want. It's only by practicing that you will actually improve your pronunciation. Okay? Bon courage mon pote, ciao et à bientôt. Bisous.